What is up, people of the internet? It is your boy Rob coming back again with another video, and today we are going to be covering the mic settings that I use for creating and streaming Valorant content. This is part 2 of possibly 3 going up on our channel. Last week we had the OBS studio settings that I use for creating and streaming Valorant content, and now today we are going to be breaking down the mic settings. So if you do want to check out that previous video, it is up there somewhere. Click on it, you know. And if you are new, make sure to drop a cheeky sub, possibly drop a like if you enjoy the video, if it's about to roll in front of your eyes, and also leave a comment on what other kind of videos that you would like to see in the future. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. So before we get into the OBS settings themselves, I just want to cover the microphone setup that I am currently using, just so if people are interested in what I'm using, they know, you know, they know, you know, and you get to sound just like me, all crispy and crunchy and high quality. So I use a Shure SM57 microphone. This is basically the little brother of the Shure SM7B, which for those of you who aren't aware of, it's a pretty godly mic. So yeah, this is pretty much the budget version, but it still cuts the job. Along with that, I have it going into a FET head. This just increases the input gain and makes it a bit cleaner, because of course these microphones are extremely quiet. So either you need to be shouting your heart out, or you're gonna have to bump the gain up. And if you bump the gain up too high without a FET head or a cloud lifter, etc., it will become a little bit hissy and you'll be getting a lot of background noise involved in that. I then have an XLR cable, you know, pick whatever up, you know. I don't know which one this is. It's red. It's cool. Red makes you cool, I guess. And that plugs into a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 interface, and then that just plugs into my computer, and from there we accept those settings in OBS, and boom, that's how you're hearing me. Crazy, whoa, insane. But yeah, let's go into the microphone settings themselves and what we're actually looking at. So you go into the settings section and then scroll down to this audio tab. From here we have the desktop audio, which you can select your headset and how you're listening to everything going on, all the gaming, etc., so your audience can hear. But to select the actual mic, all you need to do is go to mic/auxiliary audio, scroll on down. We could use a C920 if we really want that meme shouty, top quality, angry, risky style mic, or we can go to the analog 1+2 Focusrite USB audio interface and select that. And thus that's what we're going to do for my case. For those on USB mics, of course, it'll have the name, Blue Yeti, etc., HyperX Quadcaster, Elgato Wave, all that shenanigans. But with that being done, we're now ready to get into the actual OBS settings. So we go down to the audio mixer. You'll see mic/auxiliary input, blah, blah, blah. I leave the gain on 0, both things, because at the end of the day, what I'm hearing in here, I want my audience to be able to hear. That's why I don't have my desktop audio at, say, -10, or my microphone at -15 million. Though there are people that do turn down their gain on their mic section, in these settings will kind of showcase why I don't need to. And if anything, we actually need to boost the gain. But yeah, so from here, we go up to filters, and boom, we have the filter section. For you, you'll probably see nothing. Now that's fine. All you need to do is do plus, and then you get to select whatever you'd like. You can get a compressor, an expander, a gain, an invert polarity, limiter, noise gate, noise suppression, and a VST 2.x plugin, all of which have their own uses. But this video will only be looking at 3 to 5 different audio filters. So I discovered recently, I've had noise suppression on for a very long time. Noise suppression, very good on USB mics. Takes out that background hiss, that hum that you often get in microphones. Along with that, it can also take out fan noises of your PC if you've got a loud boy. But what I wasn't aware of is it takes a lot of the mid-end out, making your voice sound extremely muddy. So if you are using a higher end microphone, do not have noise suppression on. Take that bitch off. Keep it off. Makes it sound awful. But if you are on, say, a USB mic, such as the Blue Yeti, possibly the HyperX Quadcaster, that has quite a bit of hiss and background noise, I would recommend this. Although it does make you sound a little bit more muddy, the gain from having noise suppression on outweighs the loss. We then have the limiter. I personally am not using right now because of my compressor and noise gate and gain setup. But this is for people who shout a lot. If you are a shouty person or you speak loud, put a limiter on. Essentially what this bad boy does is limits how high your volume can go. So if you are shouting your heart out, you will never go above -4 decibels. 0 being peak, being red. You don't want to be in the red. You ain't, but at the same time, if you ain't redlining, you ain't headlining. So if you are wanting to use a limiter, pop this bad boy on at between -4 to -6 decibels with a release of 60 milliseconds. This does the job. It works perfectly. Means if you're shouting, you're not going to be demolishing your viewers' ears. Then we start getting on to the interesting part. We'll start with the noise gate. The noise gate is essentially a gate. It's a gate. It's great. It allows stuff in and it stops other stuff from coming in. It's great. So this is a noise gate. Crazy. 5 little things. Although it looks complicated, we will break this down. The close threshold is any audio beneath this you do not want to hear. So in my case, I don't want any noises under 40 decibels to be heard. So you can't hear it. But of course, if I'm talking at a normal volume, you can hear it. So to decide what the close threshold is correct for you, think about the background noises that are going on your stream. Breathing, fans, computer noises, a baby whining across the street. Think about, test those noises to see where they are on your microphone and go from there. So of course, if you look down here, so in my case, as I said, I've put it -40. If you check where the noises are appearing on your mic/aux kind of section. So if you've got an alarm going off in the background, if that's up at -30, you want your closed threshold to -30. Of course, if the noises are quieter and all your other stuff is quiet enough, then turn that down a bit. In my case, at -40. The open threshold, put that 5 decibels above. This is just to make sure there's a bit of leeway just in case stuff goes wrong. The attack time is how quickly it responds. In my case, I want this very quick. I don't want any noises to be heard. I don't want any alarms slipping through or any shenanigans hopping. So this is dependent on you. So for this, I have this at 10 milliseconds. For the whole time, I want it to be 60, just so it gives a bit of time. In case I'm talking quietly, I still want the chat to pick it up before I do wander off into land of being muted by a noise gate. And finally, the release time before the noise gate can start up yet again. I have this at 30 milliseconds. This gives it some time just in case I was making a noise that I did want to be heard. I know this is really getting a bit complicated around and around, but essentially you don't want your noise gate constantly kicking in if you're talking quietly, and thus having the release time up a little bit helps that out. That's the noise gate covered. Hopefully that is useful to you. Now let's move on to the compressor. This is a good thing. This is nice. Compressors are cool. Again, look a little confusing, but they're cool. So essentially what a compressor does is makes your quieters a little bit louder and your louders a little bit quieter, putting them in this middle ground, which essentially means your louds won't be as loud and your quiets won't be as quiet, and overall is a better viewing experience. Along with that, it removes the need for a limiter, as you won't be as shouty, man, having these extremely high peaks and these extremely quiet lows. There'll be this more middle ground, this nice running pace. So let's get into breaking these settings down. So how ratio works is essentially how many times you want, how extreme of a compressor you want. So if you say have a 1-to-1, you're just going to be normal. Nothing changes here. This is as if you're speaking normally at that point. But the more you turn it up, the more it will have an effect and also give you almost a warm, bassy voice. Though there is an extreme to this, I would say have a mess around with it. I personally work from anywhere from 3.5 to about 6. Above that, it sounds a little bit weird, and below that, you kind of lose out on the use of the compressor. Threshold, we have that -20. Again, this is very similar to the noise gate. It kind of dependent on how loud your voice actually is. For my case, 20 decibels works dream. The attack, 30 milliseconds, because that's how quickly we want it to kick in. The release, we want 50 seconds, just so it has a little bit of normality. And finally, we leave the output gain at 0.0000 decibels. Now, output gain, you can increase, because what a compressor does, of course, it's not making the louds as louds and the quiets as quiets. It actually makes your microphone that little bit quieter. So in most cases, you're wanting to turn the output gain up. For me personally, you can do that either here through the output gain, or I do it on my own personal tab just to make it a bit easier to keep track of where everything is going. I personally, with these compressor settings, put my gain to +4 decibels, and that works for me. I was trying at 6, that's a little bit too high, and I was peaking occasionally, which is sometimes where need of a limiter would come in. But having 4 gain, that was just this nice in between, and it worked wonders. And that is how my mic settings are. But these settings are very dependent on the microphone you're using and the setup you actually have it. Depending on your background and where you're recording or streaming is very dependent on the settings you'll need to use. But hopefully this was useful nonetheless. We'll be back for part 3 next Friday, where we'll be covering my webcam settings. So if you are interested in that, make sure to drop a sub. If you did enjoy the video, leave a like, and I'll see you boys when I see you boys. Peace out to you and goodbye. Laters.